I'm a third-year Cambridge student. I've been on this expedition twice. There's some people here, probably in the audience, I can't quite see, who've been on this expedition more years than I've been alive. So if you can refrain the heckling till the end or like deal it with later if I say anything wrong, that'd be appreciated. You know? Help me out a bit. So first question asked of any expedition is, where the hell is it? So we go to the Totgebirge. My German's not very good, which means the Dead Mountains. They're named this after the large karst plateaus, which are kind of generally featureless. There's very little plant life. We've got some photo later. They are here in northern central Austria, near the Dachstein, which is a bit more famous. Tom mentioned earlier. They get a bit more press than we do. But this area was originally chosen, as at the time it was largely unexplored compared with the surrounding areas, and that's still true. There's a lot of potential here. So this is an aerial photo of the Loser Plateau itself. Much of the caving exploration has occurred in this area all along here, with the actual plateau being up here, the roadhead being down to the south here, and the actual Loser mountain just off the edge of this photo. The caving system itself is known as the SMK system, after a very long German name of this ridge I can't pronounce. But the cave system extends all the way up here and up off the photo. This is a route that we'd use to hike in through this col. This is probably about an hour's hike, depending how tired you are, from the nearest roadhead. But this is all good path, but once you get up here, it's complete. There's no path at all. You're scrambling, you're jumping across ridges. It's very slow progress, and it's quite easy to get lost as well. There's a major problem for moving things in and out. So this is a photo from the other perspective. This is that wall of mountains, and you can see how the top camp of the expedition has moved up along the ridge as we've progressed the cave system. That over there in the distance is the roadhead. So here's a picture from the same perspective with our own Frank Tully looking rather majestic. The lighting's very good here. But you can see the kind of features of the plateau, these broad karst pavements interspersed with this dwarf pine. It's very annoying, it gets everywhere. So this is the cave system under the same picture. So this is that ridge which the cave follows, and this is the wall of mountains with the roadhead being over here. That's the lake and the lake bed. This is about 5 kilometers or so, maybe 6, with the deepest points being here. Exploration began over here, and this is generally newer as we go north, but some of these loose parts are quite old and just haven't been connected yet. So 1976 at the start, why did they choose here? CCC had done some expeditions all over Europe, but they'd heard that this area of Austria was relatively unexplored, and they figured they'd give it a go. And they came and they found that was an understatement. There's a picture somewhere on the website, I haven't got it in the presentation, of a map of this area they hand drew. And it's just a big circle around this saying unexplored plateau. So they figured they'd have a go at it, and wherever they walked, they just found more holes. They had a look at the Dachstein, but they said it was boring and overly explored. I don't think that's not necessarily true, but that's their statement. So this was initially a small group of Cambridge postgrads, but the next year they came back with more students. They found some more stuff. As you can see, it's very cold. And gradually, they worked their way northwards along the ridge, finding more sections of cave and linking them together into the master system. Until today. So there's my ugly mug. There's Christian's ugly mug. He's out there somewhere, I think. And this is our current top camp bivvy. As you can see, it's quite civilized. I sleep about 20 people in this space. And this is a large chamber somewhere in the system. I don't know which one it is. But there's the base camp. Again, it's very civilized. There's a bit of fire. But the important thing that I'm sure you're all here for is the state of the cave. So the actual master system is about 130 kilometers long, which makes it one of the longest systems in Europe. For depth, I think it's one of the longest and deepest. I'm not exactly sure where the ranking goes. We've also got about 30 kilometers of small caves that are not yet linked into the wider system. So this is a plan view from the top, heading northwards. Again, this is some of the older areas of the cave, starting with about the Stellerweg system that was explored initially. I think it was finally bottomed in about 1982. And then over the years, we've worked our way up. This is a side view. The major areas being the Stellerweg system, which is still explored by French and German cavers today, but not so much by CCC anymore. Moving into Organhoehle, which was a major target of exploration in the 90s, Balkonhoehle over here, which is near the Bivy site, somewhere up here, and was a major site of exploration in the early 2000s. And this present stuff that I'm going to talk a bit more about is this area, which noticeably is the only other area to have got nearly as deep as the initial exploration. So Tonic Shacked, named after one of our sponsors. We get a drum full of Tonic bars every year, some hats and stuff. It's pretty good gig. This is, as I say, one of our deepest areas. There's some pictures. It's nice phreatic passage for most of it. It was discovered in 2006, and it's still growing pretty nicely. We get about 10% growth a year. This breakthrough to the deeper area occurred just towards the end of the 2015 expedition. So from 2016 onwards, we started to camp about 600 meters underground to ensure that people can complete exploration further down without getting too knackered. As again, it's all pretty civilized. There's a nice infographic for your consumption. Below camp, again, wide phreatic passage, wide areas of discovery. For some people, this expedition prides itself on being quite accessible. So there's plenty of leads for people that aren't necessarily comfortable with going 900 meters down, having to come back out again. People who it's their first expedition, things like that. So another promising area is Balkonhoehle. This is more recently discovered, but it's also quite long and growing. It's not quite as deep as Tonic Shacked by any means. You can reach the pushing front in 2 hours of moderately difficult caving, and that's great for people to learn some surveying, practice their bolting, practice their rigging, and get themselves some experience, which is an investment for the future. And as I say, there are leads going deeper into the system. So it's also quite pretty. These are kind of typical ice formations. It varies depending on the area of the cave system, but the area is very cold, generally speaking. It's roughly a few degrees above freezing. I was rigging a pitch, and I turned around to a friend of mine to tell myself I was done, and he had to crack his oversuit off the wall. It had frozen onto it from leaning on it too long. Some of the older caves, like Untitled, I showed a picture of earlier, is much more extensively covered for parts that people need crampons and things to explore. But interspersed in these other caves at Balkonhoehle and Tonic Shacked are large ice features. Organhoehle, this stuff right at the end here, was explored during initial surface prospecting of the Plateau in the 80s. I believe this stuff was by the University of Bristol Speleological Society. And a few members of there decided to go back this year, have a look. They figured people had gone through it in carbide, old surveying equipment, maybe they missed something. It turned out they were completely wrong. These guys had done a very thorough job, and it was also really miserable. So they went back and had a horrible time, found the surveying had already been done very well. There were some great pictures of people squeezing through holes known as the organ grinder, but I can't seem to find them anymore. But what it was crucially good experience for was the building of a new camp. So logistically, for the past decade or so, we've been based out of one central bivvy on the plateau, which is convenient for call-outs, for movement of gear, for movement of water, for rescues. But as these areas that we're currently pushing start to dry up, we've been exploring them for a long time, it's important to move into new areas of the plateau, which might require several new camps. So this year, a few people here, some of whom may be in the audience, there's Tom lurking in the background, built a camp known as Elephant in the Room Camp, because there was a big hole in the floor somewhere that they lost a lot of gear into, which was the elephant in the room. So this was a success, and it wasn't necessarily a success from a caving perspective, from their initial goals, but in terms of building a new camp, gaining some experience in this area, it was very useful. So this is Organhoehle, as it was originally surveyed. Their new survey looks pretty much identical. And they decided it was horrible. Basically, this was the original UBS description found in the logbook. There's the crux of the cave. It's known as the organ grinder and his monkey. And it's described as the monkey, as it's small, hairy, and every organ grinder should have one. Oh, there we go. There's the picture I was looking for. There's Elaine looking very miserable. So the only advantage they did have from their expedition was they found some new small caves nearby, which offer promising leads for the future. So we will be going back next year. And in addition to this, we found a range of new holes to the west of the large caving site. This is useful as it leads towards another large cave system under the Schönberg Mountain, to the north, a few kilometers to the north and west of the SMK system. And if those linked together, that would be a very substantial cave system. That's a pipeline dream, but these are heading in the right direction. So I guess the question is, why do we keep coming back? We can mix it up, go somewhere else. Since about 1986, I believe, we've been staying at a base camp at the Gasthof-Staudenwerk with Hilda, who looks after us very, very well. We've got very good relations with them. We can store gear there. She runs a very nice bar. It's all good things. At Top Camp, we've got a lot of experience. We've got a good bivvy site. We've got places we can store things. We've got good relations with the local cave rescue, who are very excellent. We had a flood-in a few years ago, and the guy turns up in a helicopter at a moment's notice. Yeah, it was very reassuring, which is kind of what you want in your cave rescue organizations. And generally speaking, people like it. It's a nice area to go to. The actual camping area is quite remote, but it's very easy to get back to civilization and have a few days off. And also, as we say, there are leads all over the place. You can walk across the plateau and you can struggle not to fall in a hole. There's that many holes around to explore. And underground, there's hundreds of leads going at the moment. So for the future, we obviously want to keep going here. But a crucial part is, aside from these, to maintain the accessibility. As I say, this expedition is good at providing an investment for the future of our clubs. For me, it was my first caving expedition. That's true for a lot of the people that go for the first time, where they can get some experience at being in a new caving environment. They might have only done caving in the UK, and practice some skills like surveying and bolting and rigging, which are useful for their future, well, almost career. And it makes them kind of better for other expeditions. We've also, for the past couple of years, had people from Leeds Speleological Association and Bristol University Speleological Society coming along, which has padded out the numbers quite substantially. Whereas traditionally, maybe we've got 15 people on an expedition. We've now had, I think, at least 40 for the past couple of years, which means a lot more stuff is available to do. It's a lot more social. You can really expand the goals quite a lot. So next year, there are a few problems we need to solve. A large problem we had this year was drill batteries. It was a strong limitation on what we could actually achieve. I'm not sure if we nailed down the cause of it eventually, but people would lug a load of batteries down a hole, get about 2 drill holes out of it, and then have to lug them all back out again, which is kind of not very productive. Oh. That's true, that's true. So hence the idiot-proof aspect of it. We also need to work on standard caving problems, like communication with people underground. In Austria, we have a lot of problems with flooding. The limestone plateau is very porous. It can rain, you get alpine storms in the evening where it can rain very, very hard, on very, very short notice. The weather's quite changeable. And a few of the key pitches of exits from our current cave systems are quite prone to flooding and becoming impassable. This can mean people either get stuck on the pitch or stuck in camp. And working around that, at the moment, we just have rescue dumps or camps people can retreat to. But it would be useful to have some kind of communication system if at all possible. There has been experimentation with radios in the past, but it's not necessarily gone so well. We'd also like to just generally invest in new kit, expand our horizons a bit. Standard stuff. Keep growing it. Does anyone have any questions? Has anyone got any heckling to do? No? Sweet, then, Thanks.
Great.